Elaine,
Thank
over to yourself.
thank you. Thanks, Dan. And hi, everyone. I'm Elaine from the apprenticeship team. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's great to have you on board. Well, I'm pleased to say that all of our speakers are all ready. We can hear them all and we're all connected. So I'm going to hand over to two of our colleagues now, Amy and Holly, who are going to introduce the session. Over to you, ladies.
Brilliant. Thanks, Elaine. Hi, everyone. My name's Amy, and I'm excited to be back presenting our monthly Lloyds Careers Live. Now, we call this the careers fair that comes to you. Every month, always on the first Tuesday at 5 p.m, we'll bring you insights into all things about apprenticeships, careers to consider, and insider tips from the early careers team at Lloyds and people like me who have been apprentices. So we're so glad you've joined us. Let me introduce you to my co-presenter, Holly.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here tonight. I'm Holly, and I'm an apprentice here at LBG. I'm currently studying for my Level 4 Data Analyst apprenticeship. It's great to have you join us on Lloyds Careers Live, and given today's session is all about data-driven futures, I'm really excited to be here. Now, most of you might still be thinking about what you'd like to do when you leave school, and it's totally fine not to know what your future job might be. That's why we're here, to tell you all about the different careers for you to think about, and hopefully we'll give you some ideas that you hadn't even thought of. Tonight's Careers Live is all about careers in data, data science, and AI ethics, and we'll be helping you to understand what that means. And we have some experts in this field who will tell you about careers in data science, analytics, and AI ethics.
Great stuff. So when it comes to having a great career here at Lloyds Banking Group, we believe there is always more than one way. So for me, I've actually done lots of different types of roles. Now, before I even came to Lloyds Banking Group, I used to work in a fish and chip shop when I was 14. I've worked in River Island. I've worked in loads of different customer service roles, you name it, I've done it. And then I joined Lloyds Banking Group as an IT apprentice. And from that, I've then since worked with the network team. I've had chance to go and visit our data centres and actually see that our service firsthand. And now my career has shifted into DevOps. Now, DevOps stands for Development and Operations, and we're the engineers that help pull the full software lifecycle together. So from the very beginning, when somebody has a requirement, a customer's got a need, that could be something to do with their online banking requirements, we would develop that and take that all the way through to the point where we could deliver that for a customer, and then we would look after that for them. So my current role is actually a DevOps support lead at Lloyds Banking Group, where I look after the tools that the engineers use to do their jobs every day. How about you, Holly?
A bit different for me. I actually only joined LBG a year ago as a data apprentice after I decided that university wasn't for me, and I haven't looked back since. Tonight on Careers Live, we want to share all of our knowledge and insight with you to give you some ideas about different careers in data, data science, as well as understanding what AI ethics is all about too. We'll be joined by Alice, who is a responsible AI lead, and we'll also be joined by two apprentices, Phil and Becky.
So we know that many of you will be considering apprenticeships, and just to say that we will have Lloyds apprenticeship opportunities available for you to apply for, which would mean you'd have a start date with us in September 2025. So if you're interested, these roles will go live in the middle of December. Make sure you sign up to our Imagine What's Next platform so you can be notified when they go live. And you can actually find the details about the Imagine What's Next platform in the chat.
Now, the two apprentices that I mentioned, Phil and Becky, have both recently completed their Level 4 Data Analyst apprenticeship here at Lloyds. We'll be exploring how they both came to work at Lloyds and what their individual journeys have been. But before we get going, we'd like to know a little bit more about how you'd feel about working at Lloyds Banking Group in the future. So we're going to open a poll.
Okay, so the poll question for you, on a scale of 1 to 5, what extent do you think Lloyds might be the right destination for you? So if you're absolutely convinced that you want to be here in Lloyds and maybe be a future presenter of Lloyds Careers Live, go on, give us a 5. And even if you're just curious right now, we hope tonight will give you a much better idea of who we are and what the culture is like here at Lloyds Banking Group.
Got quite a lot of 3s and 4s. I'm hoping that we can bring that up to 4s and 5s by the end of the session.
Yeah,
so I've got a few people answering as well.
Just going to say, everyone, if you're on your mobile phones, you might need to swipe left or right to access the polls. If you're on your laptops or desktops, it should be coming up on your screen now. I can see that 75% of you have voted, so I'm thinking maybe a few of you haven't quite yet located the polls, but we'll keep it open just for 10 more seconds. And I can see about 80% of you have voted. So what I will do, I will end the poll there and share the results for all of you to see.
Thanks, Dan. And thank you all for your responses. I'm going to check back in with you at the end of the session to see how you're all feeling after that. Now, one thing we care really deeply about here at Lloyds Banking Group is inclusivity. So closed captioning is available if you need it. We'll cover a lot of ground tonight, so if you need more time to take it all in, you'll be able to rewatch the broadcast recording from tomorrow morning on our YouTube channel.
Great, thanks, Holly. So let's get underway. Whether it's your Spotify playlist, Netflix recommendations to watch, or even online clothes shopping, we all love personalised experiences. Now, gone are the days when we're prepared to wade through pages and pages of stuff that doesn't suit us, because we're all busy people and we like apps and websites that just seem to know us and get straight to the point. And all that, as we'll learn tonight, is powered by data. So if you're thinking data sounds like something you'd be using in computing and maths, well, you'd be right. But that's not all that it means. At the heart of things lie decisions. And as you'll learn tonight, data is insight. And careers in data are all about creating insight to allow companies and their customers to make smarter, faster, and more accurate decisions. It may seem like a world you don't really know, but as a consumer, the way you shop online or the way YouTube sequences its recommendations for you, the way even that Spotify suggests artists you might like, means you're already coming into contact with data science and analytics.
And while the origins of data science might be in computing and maths, if you're studying other subjects at school, you're probably already using some of the fundamental techniques. For example, if you're studying biology, chemistry, or physics, you're carrying out experiments, observations, making comparisons, determining the probability of something, and that's a core discipline of data science. If you're studying geography, you may be analysing population growth change, migration patterns, or if you're studying politics or economics, you may be considering the implications of migration and an ageing population. And all of these have the fundamental elements to data science within them.
But all that data counts for nothing unless it has a good question at its heart and an even better answer. Another key and important discipline in data science is how we understand the question, how we evaluate the quality of the data that's contributing to the answer, and how we help leaders make informed decisions. A good data scientist doesn't hand over reams of columns of data in a spreadsheet to a busy leader. They create a story that offers insight to help that busy leader make a good and well-informed decision. And for that, data visualization, which means how we represent findings through graphics and stories, it's really important. Almost everyone on this call will have heard of ChatGPT, just one AI engine that's out there, and artificial intelligence thrives on data. But just because we can gather lots and lots of data doesn't mean the decisions are accurate or ethical. So, for those interested in law and philosophy, one of the emerging fields in data science and analytics concerns the ethics of collecting and using data, dealing with those moments of conflict between what might feel right to a company to maximize its profits and what might feel fair and reasonable to consumers.
So as you can see, almost whatever subjects you're studying at school can lead you into this industry, but don't just take our word for it. That's why on Careers Live, we like to bring you experts and people experienced in this field to help out. So first up, we have Alice, and I also believe we now have Tristan, which is great. And as experts in this field, they're going to help us learn more about the industry, what's been happening over the past year, and some of the things you could be doing if you make data science and analytics your career choice. So I'm going to hand over to Amy.
Time now then to dive into the world of data science and analytics. So welcome both. Hi, Tristan and Alice. Thank you for joining us. So the thing that's interesting in this field of data science and analytics is that it's so new and developing so quickly that many people who are now our experts have themselves transitioned into the field from other professions. I'd like to come to Tristan first. Hi, Tristan. Welcome.
Hello. Hopefully you can hear me. And
yes.
Yeah, it's great to be here today and to have this opportunity.
Brilliant. Could you just tell us a little bit more about you, what your role is at Lloyds Banking Group, and what it is you do?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So as you said, I'm Tristan and I am the group head of data science here at Lloyds Banking Group. So that means I lead the group's data science and AI Centre of Excellence. So the Centre of Excellence is a team of about 100 people that are experts in artificial intelligence, machine learning and behavioural science. And our mission is to use those capabilities to continually improve customer service and to transform bank processes.
Wow, sounds like you're a busy team. So what attracted you to a career in data science?
It's a great question, really. So I've always been fascinated with the way that we can use data to do really big, impactful things that impact us individually, things that impact the world around us. So I remember when I was school hearing around how you could use data science and data generally to develop cures for diseases, for designing kind of roads and airports, looking at how you could get clean energy sources, like building computer games, improving the ways that we interact with companies. Like all of those things that are things that actually come from data science and AI. And I really love the idea that you could make such big, impactful, kind of changes to the world through those things. So yeah, I've always kind of been really excited and interested in that space.
Brilliant. And I guess just building on that then, can you tell us what are some highlights of the role, and have there been any challenges along the way?
Yeah, sure. So, I think like for me, kind of what do the team do, right? So we're here to scale the use of artificial intelligence to use like machine learning in the organization more broadly, and we want to use that to make a real difference to customers and to help the bank make the best decisions possible. So if I think about kind of what we do in work, we work with some really amazing, talented people who are in the team. So we've got lots of really bright people that have come from a diverse range of backgrounds into the team. But we also work with partners elsewhere. So I'm working a lot with colleagues in Google at the moment, for example, and also with universities and with kind of smaller financial technology companies. So we kind of get to work with really interesting, exciting people. Also kind of with the people, in the team that have come in through graduate schemes, who have come in through apprenticeships, it's great seeing them evolve and grow through their careers. It's wonderful seeing kind of graduates move on to kind of, successful kind of senior manager careers, for example. And then lastly, kind of from that like highlights perspective, is the types of work that we do. So we, I kind of mentioned before, and like the big impact it can have. So, we do work from, seeing how we can change the app and how customers are impacting with the app and getting feedback from customers on that, or how companies are using things like a newly launched carbon calculator that we might have, or seeing our support for vulnerable customers grow. So kind of that's the bit that for me, it's kind of seeing how our actions and activities result in kind of real world changes to people that makes their lives better. Yeah. You mentioned challenges as well. So that's all the good stuff. I mean, challenges, we're in an area that's moving at a faster pace than ever before. I think you mentioned ChatGPT earlier on, and kind of seeing how that's evolved in a really short space of time. I think we can all appreciate how much and how fast things are growing. I think there's a statistic out there around, there's a new publication about AI once every couple of minutes across the world. So we've got all of this stuff happening at such a pace. So it's really difficult to kind of keep up with that, and for teams and companies like ours to keep on top of it. But with that also comes a lot of opportunity. So it means that life is never boring. It means that what's possible with data and data science is ever growing. So whilst it is a challenge, it also kind of makes it really exciting, really interesting, and grows the amount of stuff that you can do in this space.
Absolutely. Now, you touched a little bit on AI there. So could you tell us a little bit more about it, what it is and how it sits alongside data science?
Yeah, I kind of, thrown a lot of terms at you there with kind of AI and machine learning and data science. So I think the kind of way to look at it really is that So artificial intelligence is actually been around since the 50s. So it's not necessarily a new concept, but it's really grown recently in terms of what's possible with it. And AI refers to the concepts of computers and machines doing things that we previously thought we needed human level intelligence to do. So it says using machines to do things that we thought that humans could only do in the past. Now, AI is kind of quite a broad thing, and within AI, there's a discipline which is machine learning. And machine learning, so it's a subset of AI, and it's specifically focused on computers have the ability to self-learn. So if you think about AI is quite broad, machine learning is a subset of that, and it's around how machines self-learn. And then within that, we talked around things like ChatGPT. That's where things like generative AI come in. So it's a subset of machine learning, which is around us generating content. And then data science is kind of a broader term that can encapsulate all of that and a few other bits. But it's really around anything that we do that mixes computer science, mathematics, and then business in some degree. So some kind of outlet for that. So, the folks that are in the team all have that kind of element of interest, is mixing computers with maths, with something that we do, like kind of helping vulnerable customers, that kind of area. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's really fascinating, and I'm sure we could definitely dive deeper about that topic. So I'd just like to move on to introduce Alice now. So obviously, as we've heard, Tristan's team help thousands of colleagues to use data to support their everyday working decisions. So we'll keep Tristan with us for a moment and bring in Alice. So Alice, welcome. Thank you for joining us. So we introduced you earlier as a responsible AI lead. What does your role actually involve?
Yes, sure. So I am in Tristan's kind of broader data science team, and what my team does is ensuring that the way that kind of the AI and the modeling that we do at Lloyds is done safely and ethically. So in practical terms, I've got various teams working on different bits. So some working on more of the processes. So what kind of guardrails, what kind of sign-off points do we have while the model is being built to make sure that we're doing things safely, as well as actually building toolkits to detect bias in maybe our models, explainability things. So for example, if someone's been not granted a loan, like, can we actually explain our decision? So it's really making sure that the way that we use the data to build models in particular, if it's going to impact customers or colleagues and decisions, is making sure that we're really confident that we've done that safely and ethically. So that's what it is. And obviously, this is my main job, but as a line manager, I'll also coach my team, kind of do some of the strategic thinking and the vision, and then coach them as well. So it's kind of two sides to being kind of a senior manager in that space.
Wow, sounds like you've got a busy role. And I guess just to sort of get into more of a sort of simpler terms, how would you describe what you do to your friends and family?
Yes, and I've had to do that many times, so I have my answer. So imagine you're going to a bank and you want to get a loan, but you're denied. I guess what the team does is really making sure that if you've been denied, it was fair, like there are reasons and we can explain why. And in the future, we might want to be able to tell you, well, if your credit score was this much higher, or your salary was this much higher, or I don't know, it's kind of giving people these answers so that they've understood why a decision was made, and what they could do or what could be done so that the decision would be reversed, basically. So that's what it is, in a nutshell, is really making sure that we're making fair decisions and we can explain our decisions.
That's good. So always putting that customer first. That's really great. Now, thinking back then, how does this role compare to what you thought you wanted to do when you were at school?
Yes, so I don't think I knew this existed at all when I was at university or doing my master's. There definitely wasn't an ethics of data science module. There's also I don't think, any Gen AI. So this is obviously all new, and I guess you kind of have to adapt and move with the times and, keep learning. I guess I always knew I wanted to work in data. Like, I like being able to make decisions based on kind of tangible data, and then also the kind of creative thinking, so finding solutions to problems. So I guess in that sense, I'm still doing that. I'm still using loads of data, and I'm still kind of trying to find solutions to problems. But I guess I couldn't have envisaged the kind of career I've had, because a lot of the things didn't actually exist. So it's kind of you kind of follow a path and then you move and then you move. But yeah, a bit different, but still some broader themes remain.
Yeah, certainly. So what fires you up then and makes you want to come into work in the morning? So what do you enjoy most about your role?
So it's kind of two things here. So the one thing is I actually really believe in what we're doing. So obviously I want to make sure that we're doing things right for our customers. You know, I would hate for someone to be discriminated against because one of our models is wrong and we haven't really checked it properly. So, you know, I'm actually passionate about the topic. Like I want to make sure we do things right for our customers. So that's obviously a key kind of drive, you know, is like, let's make things, like let's move things, let's build things that are going to help us. And then the second thing is the team. Like I love, you know, just having a team that I like working with, that I want to understand kind of what their career aspirations are. I want to help them do that. So it's kind of a bit of both, is the work itself and then the environment that I enjoy. So yeah.
And can you demonstrate to those on the call how data visualization can help convey information and actually tell a story to aid understanding?
Yeah, so it can be really difficult if you have loads of numbers and you're not visualizing. So visualization would be maybe a chart, a graph, a map, whatever it isn't just numbers. And sometimes talking about numbers, it can be difficult. If I threw, 15 different numbers at you right now, you wouldn't retain them. You wouldn't really understand maybe the difference between those numbers. So visualization is super important to see that bigger picture and see it quickly. And so, for example, if we wanted to see, I don't know, some information about our customers by region, if I just read down, Essex this, London this, Yorkshire this, you wouldn't really understand. Whereas if I showed you a map with different colors and the legend, straight away you'd get the message. So I guess that is the power of visualization. And actually, there's a really good example. So it's often used when we talk about visualization, but in 1854, so long before the words maybe visualization was used, they managed, through the power of kind of like visualization, figure out where an outbreak of cholera was happening in London. So they had loads of cases, but again, loads of numbers everywhere. And it's only until Dr. John Snow actually put this on a map and dotted it where it was that they actually really realized, okay, all the cases are happening around this water fountain, and this is probably where the outbreak of cholera is coming from. So, it has practical implication as well as just kind of like, it's much easier to understand things, see patterns, see differences when you when you're visualizing them.
It's a tongue twister, that, isn't it? But I definitely agree, because it gives you that impact. And as somebody I'm a visual learner, so I would need that to be able to understand the data that you'd be given. Now, can you tell us about some of the challenges that you have to overcome in your role? Because we know all jobs have their ups and downs. So is there any obstacles that you've faced?
Yes, so I guess the work that my team is doing is asking people to do extra things on top of their current job. Basically, like we're introducing a new level of, for ethics, we'll now need you to do this. For governance, we'll need you to do this, and it's on top of what they've been doing for ages. And so as much as people understand ethics and the concept, and they say, yes, I'd love to do it, if I'm asking them to do extra things, sometimes it is a bit challenging to get people to kind of change the way that they've always done things. So it's, I guess, the way I've been overcoming this is really understanding their need, understanding what is stopping them from adopting this new kind of methodology, and making sure that we collaborate. So I never want my team to create things and then just tell people, now you use it, but it's understanding what are your needs, can we create them together, so that then they're more likely to actually use it because we've built it kind of together. So I guess that, changing mindsets. And it's the same for everyone. When you're used to doing something, it is quite hard when someone asks you to do things a bit differently. So it's really understanding where they're coming from rather than imposing. I find that has worked the most in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Alice. So I'd like to now bring Tristan back into the conversation. So we'll just sort of, between you both, we'll ask a few questions. So Tristan, I'd like to pose this first one to yourself. What qualities or characteristics do you think people help people to thrive in data and analytics careers?
Yes, it's a great question. And if I think about kind of like the team, we actually have people that have come from a real diverse range of background. So, kind of geographical, cultural, academic background. And to an extent, actually, that diversity is really important. It's important from to aid the quality of our solutions, and also to support some of the work that Alice is doing in having that kind of ethical and diverse kind of view. We've got people that have come through, with PhDs in artificial intelligence. We've got people that have come, with maths degrees, but also we've got plenty of people that have come, you mentioned at the start, through different kind of degree backgrounds, through our graduate scheme, through apprenticeship. So, actually you can get to data science and AI in a lot of different ways, also because there are lots of different roles within this area. But, I think that at its core, there are some, key things. So people with an interest in mathematics, with an interest in computer science, with an interest in solving problems, that's some of the kind of key things. You want people that, want to collaborate, that, are kind of really interested in, in that problem solving I mentioned. So there's some kind of core traits that, no matter kind of where people have come from through their background, are really important in this kind of area. And really that desire, it's an area that I mentioned earlier on, that's kind of continue to evolve. So you want to, have that mindset of keep learning and are interested in, what's next, what's possible with this technology. So that kind of real curiosity to learn, I think, is important as well.
Absolutely. I think that's really great to hear that we are looking sort of for a diverse workforce when it comes to working in data. That's really encouraging. Now, Alice, given the scale of your challenge and the pace of change, how do you create time for yourself to keep up to date with the latest advancements in, for example, Gen AI, while maintaining energy needed to engage with so many colleagues? It's quite demanding.
Yeah, it is definitely a tricky one, and I know it's a thing that a lot of people kind of struggle with, because you put time aside to do some learning or to go to conferences, and then something important at work comes up and you kind of have to cancel it. So it is a difficult one. So there's little things that you can do, like you can set up alerts about various things, like on LinkedIn about a particular topic. You can join certain networks that are very specific to the topics you're interested in, so you might only get kind of the interesting bits. So there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of automate the information that comes to you. But then ultimately there's a lot that needs to be done around kind of going to conferences and understanding kind of new, like, is there new technology that's coming up? How do I educate myself? And again, it doesn't mean spending loads of time doing it, but like, can I at least just read one article about it? Can I read one paragraph so that I just understand what it is? And then if I have to refer back to it, I kind of know enough that I know where to find the information. So it is tricky. I find, a lot of my team, we've tried to do, do a half day of like learning, and then you share your learning with the teams. It hasn't always worked. So it is tricky. And another thing that people have done actually to keep up to speed and continue learning is if they sign up for a course, that'd be kind of outside of work, but then they will dedicate definitely the time because they have an exam to pass. So I found that in the past, when they've got an exam or they've got a certificate at the end, that's been the best way of like making sure that the time is dedicated. But yeah, it's a tricky one, and especially in data, it is really important, as you said, Gen AI, that wasn't there a few years ago. If you're not on top of these things, if you don't chat to people, if you don't read articles, you would have missed out. So yeah, it's important to make time for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Tristan, I'll come to you for this one. Lloyds has access to an immense amount of data. So can you tell us about any ethical decisions that we have to make regarding the use of customer data?
Yeah, so as you said, right, we've got a huge data set, but it's with that comes a real responsibility and a privilege to use it. So fundamentally, through the work that Alice and her team are doing as well, it's around like, how do we use that data in the right way to genuinely support customers. So there are two things. So there's a bunch of regulations.
Oh, have we lost Tristan? We have Alice. Do you want to jump in there?
Sure, I can go. Well, hopefully Tristan rejoins. So there's a lot of kind of tools that we've built to help assess like kind of ethics in our data. So we've built an ethical impact assessment. So we'll ask people loads of questions, and depending on that, we might say, actually, you're not allowed to go ahead with this project, or you are allowed, but these are the things that you'll need to do on top of your project to make sure that it's safe. We've got something called consequence scanning workshops. So sometimes, if you debias, so like you found bias in your data and you'll change the, the data set to make sure there's no bias, but you may actually be impacting then another group. So we've got a workshop as well to help people understand, like, what could be the unintended consequence of the project that you're doing. So we've got a few tools. There's also, as I think Tristan was about to say, but there's regulations, there's laws that we actually also have to follow. There's things around privacy. But ultimately, this is an example. What we may have had in the team, in the bank, is a team building a model. It could be for anything. It could be for marketing. Could be for mortgages. And they use our tool. They notice there's bias, and they mitigate the bias before they release the model, and then they feel safe. So it would have happened a few times. Like the first iteration, maybe the data in the sample was biased already, or the model itself wasn't built properly, but through our tools, they will see that, they will change, the underlying data, they'll change the model, and then when it goes live, they're actually confident that there's no longer any bias. So yeah, that's some of the decisions that we may have to make regarding kind of models or data.
Fab. And just really quickly, just one last question, as we're just running out of time on this segment, but what are some of the risks relating to AI?
Yes, so I've already banged on about this one, but bias is one of the key things. It could be bias in data, bias in the way that you build your model, or human bias that gets introduced. There's data quality. So if your data that you're basing your model on is of poor quality, it's not going to result in anything good. There's data privacy. And then with Gen AI, so with ChatGPT, these kind of things, there's a lot of new risks that have come about. So hallucination. So the model says something that sounds right, but is completely made up. Toxicity, the model actually responds to you in a really awful way. There's some kind of like misinformation. So it returns some information, but it's completely out of date. So there's a lot of additional risks now as well with those more complex machine learning models like Gen AI and ChatGPT. Loads of risk, but most of them can be mitigated, which is great.
Fab. Thank you so much. There is so much to chat about, and honestly, that has been absolutely fascinating. I've learned some new stuff there. So thank you both so much, Alice and Tristan, for your insights and for joining us today.
No worries.
Over to you, Holly. Thanks.
Thank you both. That was really useful and some interesting key takeaways there too. Now, last month, we welcomed the new class of 2024, over 600 graduates and apprentices joining us here at Lloyds Banking Group. And here are some of the reasons why they love to work at Lloyds Banking Group.
So it was the feeling that I got when I was welcomed by my team.
Helping people in the most vulnerable of moments.
There's always like some activities going on, fun activities.
Honestly, I actually really can't appreciate everyone enough.
When I joined the group, the first day itself was very warm and welcoming.
And fun as well, a bit of fun too when you were doing the learning and stuff. And
everybody's welcoming, warm, you feel at home.
Satisfaction when you finish the call and somebody's like, thank you, you've helped so much, just makes your day a little bit better.
It's just been very enlightening to have a team that actually supports me and gets me going and ready for work. I've never really had that before.
As a bit of a nerd, the technology is really appealing.
The systems, they're easy to learn.
I really do love it here, and the people are great, everyone is great, coming to the office is great.
My training was genuinely fantastic. It set you up for success.
You are free to express yourself.
There's a lot of stuff to do in Lloyds that are outside of work.
I found the opportunities available very exciting.
It was easier to do the training with people that you can kind of get on with and have a laugh with.
There is always something that I learn every single day I'm at work.
I felt included from the start. It was really professional, really efficient.
I really enjoy the emphasis placed on personal growth and development.
Every avenue is open, it's very friendly, people are willing to talk and share what they do.
Thanks everyone for watching the video, and it's great to see so many of you commenting in the chat box here about what you learned most on that last session. So it's really, really great to see all of the things that you've picked up from that session there, but I'm going to hand back over to Holly.
Thanks, Dan. And yeah, it's great to see all the appreciation that's coming through in the chat. I'm sure Alice and Tristan will be really appreciative of that. But now it's time to hear from one of our very own previous apprentices. We're going to hear from Phil, and for those eagle-eyed viewers, you will notice that Phil is one of our anchor presenters here at Lloyds Careers Live, but this time he's going to get to sit in the hot seat. So hi Phil, hope you're doing okay, and could you please tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, please?
Hi Harley, thanks for having me on. I am a senior analyst and I just passed my 2-year mark at Lloyd's. So I came into Lloyd's on an apprenticeship, and I got straight to work in the transport team, and now I'm in the customer insights team, where we kind of do some pretty cool stuff. So we work on connecting with our customers. One of the things that I do is look at customer feedback, read complaints, pull insights directly from them. And to be honest, when I'm trying to impress people, I describe my role as being a little bit like a detective, uncovering the real reasons behind the customer experience. And as what some of the guys have already said on the call, I do a lot of storytelling. So I'm taking the data and converting that into stories just by looking at trends and metrics to help my team and managers beyond understand what really matters to our customers, so that it's not just about numbers, but the stories that drive decisions. And I think that probably one of the most exciting parts about it is the creative problem solving. Like every day we're doing something different, and I get to play around with innovative ways to do that and test different kinds of theories around what influences customer satisfaction. And something that Tristan mentioned earlier around vulnerable customers, that's a big drive at the minute at Lloyd's, and it's something that I'm working on right at this instant. Doing some work on vulnerable customers to understand and to make sure that we're delivering the best for all our customers. So,
And what made you get into being a senior analyst? Did you have any previous experience, and what attracted you to come and work at Lloyd's?
So I spent 10 years working as an English teacher, traveling the world, so being all over the place. And then there were the 4 years working as a chef. So in short, I did not have any experience working as an analyst, and definitely not a senior analyst. So it was pretty much from talking to somebody while I was working as a chef who said that I seemed to have an analyst mindset. And then I started looking into the opportunities for coming into a place like Lloyd's. And I really did look all over the place, but the first place I started was on Google, where I realized that there were such things as level 4 data analyst apprenticeships, and that I absolutely should apply to one.
All good things start on Google, Phil. And as you know, most of our audience is still at school. So how can they develop a taste for data right now to prepare for a career at Lloyds Banking Group?
I would say that you would have heard people talking about data already, and it should click that data is everywhere and that you use it all the time, even if you can't quite come up with a list like some of us can. And so my best advice around that is to find something that you're passionate about and explore that through data. So when I was working as a teacher, I was using data to help me memorize the names of students, to develop better ways to test my students. So I was interested in education, and I found a way to use data to help me tell those stories that I needed to. When I started working as a chef, the exact same thing. I was using data to help advise me on better ways to improve the menu and to improve food wastage in restaurants. And think about what you like doing in your free time. I am very much into films, and I'm very much into football. There's lots of online resources where you can find large amounts of free public data that you can use to practice getting used to data, to practice creating dashboards, and to practice creating reports, the kind of things that you would need on a day-to-day in a job like mine.
Interesting to hear how your previous experience has kind of led you into this role. It almost seems like it was fate, and it was a long time coming. Now, when you decided that you wanted to get into data, did you apply for apprenticeships among other employers, or what attracted you to Lloyd's?
So I did apply to an awful lot of different companies, a lot of big competitors of Lloyd's, and I was the reason for that is because first off, it's a very competitive market. You don't want to just settle on one company. So I applied to a lot. And through all of these different companies that I applied to, I was lucky enough to get to interview stage with quite a few of them. And my last assessment center was with Lloyd's. So I'd been waiting for the Lloyd's one just to see how that was going to play out. And it did mean that I also had to wait what felt like a really long time to get some news on how that went. But to be honest, my experience in the assessment center told me everything that I needed to know, both about the bank, the opportunities, and the brilliant people who worked there. And I was hooked. Like, before you go into an assessment center, you should do a lot of research on the company that you're going to be working with. And that's exactly what I did about Lloyd's. I felt that Lloyd's matched the values, and when I had my interview experience, it matched up with the research that I did. And it was probably one of the most diverse interview panels I'd ever had, with different genders, ethnicities being represented, and that really made a difference as well, especially with some of the side of desk stuff that I'm doing at the moment.
Thank you, Phil, and it's been great to hear from you today. And I think it's interesting that you finished on that note, because diversity is something that keeps cropping up in the conversation today. It's been great to hear about your squiggly career, and thank you, and good luck on your senior analyst journey.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to hand back over to Amy, who I believe is going to talk to Becky.
Yes, thanks for that, Phil. That was really interesting. So let's pick up with Becky, who has also just completed her apprenticeship. And also, Becky, I hear that you've just been promoted after your apprenticeship. So massive congratulations and well done with that. It really just goes to show that apprenticeships do open doors. So could you just tell us a little bit about yourself to get started?
Yeah, thank you. I've just been promoted. I'm currently in my second week, so I'm still sort of learning the ropes a little bit, but definitely feeling good, definitely glad I took this job. But a bit about me. I've been at Lloyd's for 2 years. I started as a data analyst as well in September 22, and I finished in April this year. And before that, I was a teaching assistant, which is very different, obviously. And it wasn't for me. I wanted to change. And that's what brought me to Lloyd's.
Brilliant. So it's a data analyst apprenticeship scheme that you completed, is it?
Yes. So it was, I did actually apply for the data apprenticeship and the business analyst apprenticeship. And it was kind of, which one do I want to do? And now I've got the choice. And after a long time thinking, I chose the data one because I thought, as you can see, data's always going to be used. It's ever growing. It's a skill that's really sought after, and it's what fed into me getting this promotion. Because having spoken to the people that interviewed me, they said that it was my data knowledge and data background that put me at the top of the list. So it's really worth it.
Fab. And how did you actually get onto the scheme? What was your application process like?
So it was a really good application process. Obviously, as I mentioned, I was a TA, so I didn't have any experience in data. But when I looked at the entry requirements and things like that, I saw that they would teach me everything I needed, and I didn't need to know how to code, or I didn't need to know Python or anything like that. So I've really enjoyed the application process. Similar to Phil, I did apply for a role with a different company, and I wasn't successful, but I think in hindsight that was for the best, because even the feel of the process, I just didn't think that company was for me. But Lloyd's, I just felt really welcomed, even though I hadn't actually joined. The assessment centre in particular, I really enjoyed, because you got to meet everyone else that was applying and people that you could potentially be working with. And also being interviewed by colleagues that I see around the office now. I really like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess we want to know then, what does your role involve? And I guess if you had to describe that to your friends and family, how would you describe it?
Yeah, so I'll talk, obviously this is a data session, so quickly a bit about my previous role. I was in the digital engagement team, so we looked at all things digital, everything customers do in the app, and basically all in all tried to optimize the experience for customers based on the data we got. And it does kind of link now, because to my new role, because I was looking at things like what customers do after they drop out of an application journey and how can we stop that from happening. And that data that I used to provide goes to the team I'm currently in. So I had a bit of background knowledge. So in my current role, I've got a bit more of an overarching view of savings products. So I'm in the savings lab. And again, we try and optimize the savings journeys, improve customer experience. So we look at sometimes testing. So having like an A/B test. So if we want to change something about the journey, one portion of customers will see the original and the other portion will see the change, and we'll see how well that does in terms of conversion, which is when a customer actually takes out a product. Other things we look at is error rate. So if lots of customers are, again, dropping out because of a certain error, then we look to get it fixed. And it's really interesting. I'm not in a data role technically anymore, but I'm still very much using data, and everyone in my team is very glad for my coding skills.
Oh, brilliant. And just finally then, because we are quickly running out of time tonight, what advice would you give to anyone on this call tonight who is looking to get into a data role?
I would say don't be put off if you don't have enough experience, because I obviously mentioned I didn't have any. I think research the companies that you're going to apply for, because it's possible that their values might not align to yours. It's highly possible that LBG's will align to your values because it's such a great place to work. But I think if you're doubting yourself or like your ability to like get all the way to the final part of the process, then don't feel like that, because I had no experience and I just thought, okay, well, this is what I want to do. So I just hit submit on my application and I was successful. So I think just don't let your thoughts stop you from doing something, because even if you haven't got the experience, that doesn't mean you haven't got as good a chance as anyone else.
Absolutely, I totally echo that. So there you go, folks. Put an application in if you see the vacancies come up in December. So thanks so much for joining us, Becky, and thanks also to Phil and all of our guests this evening. Holly?
I mean, can you believe it? Our time is nearly up. Time has definitely flown by tonight. And right at the start of tonight's Careers Live, we asked you a question. I'm interested to see whether your views on Lloyds might have changed. So we asked you what you think about us as a potential employer. So if you're dead set on joining Lloyds and becoming the next Careers Live presenter, you might be a 5. But if your dreams lie elsewhere, we won't be offended and you might be a 1. So I think the poll's up now. We've got a few responses coming in.
Yeah. Oh, I'm liking that. We're seeing lots of 4s and 5s. That's great to see.
Yeah, we've got a lot of...
A couple of 1s and 2s, like we say, we won't be offended. We understand.
But we were set at a 3 at the start of the session, so it's good to see that's bumped up to more of a 4 now. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that is great. Well, hopefully we will see your applications coming in later this year, and you can join us in our team.
And we hope tonight's been really helpful in showing you some different career options. As you'd heard from tonight's guest, there's always more than one way, and you will find the path that is right for you. We want to keep supporting you after today's call. And the best way is through our Imagine What's Next platform, which Dan mentioned at the start of this call. Here you'll find learning, more information about apprenticeships, access to work experience, and over 100 mentors who have all been there and are ready to share their experience. If you take just one action from this evening, make sure you've signed up to Imagine What's Next. That's Imagine What's Next. You'll be able to find the link in the chat function.
And Lloyds Careers Live returns on Tuesday, the 3rd of December, where we'll be getting you ready and set for interviews. We'll be helping you to conquer your job search fears and have lots of experts ready to share their top tips and insights. Mahita Bell, who you saw in the video at the top of the show, and one of our other colleagues will be taking over the reins for December. No pun intended there, reins for December. So we hope you can join us for Ready, Set, Interview, Conquer Your Job Search Fears on Tuesday, the 3rd of December.
We've loved having your company this evening, and your company too, Amy and Dan, and to all of our guests. And please join us again next month for another Lloyds Careers Live. And thank you all for listening.
That's great. Thanks, Holly, and thanks, Amy. You've been great hosts this evening, and I hope that everyone at home has really enjoyed the session. You've learned a little bit more about what Lloyds Banking Group can offer you as an apprenticeship when you're leaving school or college, and we hope to see you making your applications in December time to some of their data and AI roles that they've got on offer. So just as mentioned, I have just now put the certificate link into the chat box. Please do take a moment to fill that in. There's also the Lloyds Banking Group Connect to Imagine What's Next platform in there for you. But before we do close, I've got one final video to share with you, which will wrap up the event here tonight. So whilst you're watching the video, please do make sure that you fill in your certificate links, but also take the time to check out and register yourselves onto the Imagine What's Next platform.